Hi, we're sisters Elaine and Brenda.
Welcome to the Body Wealth Podcast, a space for conversation about the wealth that really matters.
Your best health. Welcome, Ashley. We're so happy to have you with us on the Body Wealth Podcast. How are you feeling today?
Feeling well. Thank you so much for asking.
Great. Well, would you take a second to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
My name is Ashley Gonzalez. I am an educator, lifelong learner, most importantly, a mom. That's really it.
Very nice.
So we're going to jump right into our topic today. We know you have two beautiful children, but after the birth of your first child, you began having feelings and behaving in a way that was worrisome to you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Had my first, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Just didn't feel, I guess, right? You know, like something's off, something's different.
Which is hard because if it's your first child, you don't really know how you're supposed to feel because you haven't done it.
Right. You don't know how you're supposed to feel. And then also, you don't want to be that person, right? That person that's always coming up with something or seeming like they're coming up with something, just always thinking, okay, this is wrong. And understanding that, okay, hey, this is new. This is going to feel a little different. It'll pass. And unfortunately, it didn't just pass. It just kind of sat with me.
Can you tell us a bit more about what you were feeling, what you were thinking? Was it in your body? Was it in your mind? What was it that was off?
So I think the biggest thing was expecting to feel happy, right? And I wasn't feeling happy. And then also, I think some issues I was dealing with my mother, we weren't in the best of spaces. And I'm having my first, I'm an only child.
Wow.
And my birthing experience wasn't great with her being there.
She was in the room when you delivered?
She was in the room.
And you chose that?
I did, because I felt like I had to do it in order for us to get better, right? I felt like if I don't do this, we're going to always kind of be off. In hindsight, shouldn't have done it. I am grateful though, because my mother-in-law was also there and she was able to fill in and support in the way that I needed to be supported. But, I'm thinking I'm having all these feelings. I'm not happy. And at first I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm just, just down from my experience of my labor and delivery. It'll pass. It went from not being happy to just, I can't describe it. It almost felt like I just had no emotion. I wasn't up. I wasn't down. I was
like you were numb.
Just like that was perfect. Like I was numb. I was just numb to everything.
I'm sure during this time you were caring for your baby. So what did that look like for you?
Caring for my baby. Mind you, my husband had just started a new job. So he was off. I'm going to say a week, but I don't even think it was a full week. And now I'm trying to figure out, like, what am I doing with this person? Like, I really shouldn't have a
baby. Right. We all feel that.
No one's going to help me. No one's coming to watch me do this. Oh, okay.
So, and you're not getting much sleep, I'm sure.
Not getting sleep, right? And then also trying to be thoughtful. Okay, my husband has a new job. He has to wake up. So I kind of need to take care of the nighttime, and I'll catch up on sleep during the daytime. But we know we never catch up on sleep. It doesn't happen. And I don't know why we give people that advice, because it just doesn't happen.
No, right.
So trying to do all of that, but dealing with a baby that's crying, and me trying to learn, what do they mean? Like, are you hungry? Are you wet? What is it? I don't know. I need you to give me words. But of course, you can't give me no words.
You have no words, right?
You have no words. Again, not having that ideal experience of having your mom there to coach you through. I'm trying to do this a little bit on my own. And my mother-in-law did the best that she could, but she's back where she lives. But it was very much so like, don't worry, everyone feels like this. You'll get over it. But it just didn't feel right. I wasn't feeling like I was attached to my son. I was like, I know I love him, but also I could walk away and be okay. And once I started feeling that, that's when I was like, okay, this can't be normal. This is not just a couple of days. This is a couple of weeks of feeling like this and not really having the words. And then when I feel like I have some words, I don't want to be judged. So I don't want to say it out loud.
Were you talking to your husband about it though?
I was to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
I think for him, I didn't want him to worry, right? So I don't want him to worry. I mean, the best way to describe it, I didn't want to be a burden. It was like, okay, I should be able to do this. The ones before me have done it. I will figure it out. I'll shake it off. But I wasn't being as vulnerable and transparent as I should have been with my feelings. Yeah.
So how did you come to figure out that what you were experiencing was postpartum depression?
My 6-week checkup. So literally going into my doctor's office for my 6-week checkup, and I had an amazing doctor, and her literally just sitting down and just talking with me. Of course, now they make us do that survey, they ask you questions just to see where you at, how you're feeling. And I guess my responses were concerning, indicated something. And from those responses, it prompted her to sit me down, kind of dig in deeper. And I just remember her first saying, "How are you doing?" And I just started crying. I don't know.
Not good. Right.
I don't know. And then from there, her talking, asking and probing and really asking the right questions. Her being someone that looked like me, understanding when I'm like, okay, I don't want to be a trouble. You don't have to worry about it. And she's like, I'm not worried, but I'm a support.
Well, that's a great doctor.
So amazing.
But it was also important that you were honest when you were filling out your survey and when you were talking with her. So you felt secure and safe with her.
Felt safe and I trusted her, right? I knew when you're looking for a doctor, yes, all of the credentials are important, but do you feel safe? Do you trust them? And so because I trusted her, she was able to provide the care that was needed and to sit with me and to just listen. Her response was more, hey, these are symptoms of postpartum. I want to take our time and make sure if we're diagnosed, let's make sure we're going through this process completely. While we know these are symptoms, let's come on and let's start putting together a treatment plan. And she was great with that.
So she started putting together a treatment plan that first day.
That first day, literally, it was very much, hey, what would you like to do? Do you want to do medication management? Do you want to go that route? Or do you want to try a more holistic approach? So, number one, giving me the option. And I think sometimes people get nervous about medication management. So I don't want to ever seem as if like medication is the wrong thing. No, I think my doctor was able to see where I was and was able to base it on, okay, we can have options. She can choose. But I always say, like, if she had recommended, hey, I think this is the course of action first, I would have been open to it again because I trusted her.
So what did you try first?
I tried a holistic approach. So her thing was, for me, I want you outside. You need sunlight. You need time alone. What are you eating? How much water are you intaking? Literally, have your feet touched grass? Have you touched the earth? Things that I'm just like, I really don't. How am I gonna do this? I got a baby.
Right.
And she's like, but no, you have to. You have to.
Find a way.
And really drilling into me, like, I am no good to my baby if I'm not good to myself.
And I think we need to say that like so many times because So often we feel like the way to be good to our babies is to be there all day, every day, and do everything they need. And so I love that your doctor was like, time outside by yourself.
Yes.
Right? Right.
Yes.
It's not you pushing a stroller, it's you being free to not be caring for somebody else in that time outside.
Right. And to literally try to turn my brain off.
Yeah.
So how did you find a way to do those things? Because they're not easy to do when you have a new baby.
And I would say I'm fortunate that my husband, he's a great partner. And so
Mhm.
I was able to look forward to, okay, when he comes in, I'm going to say hi. How are you? Give you a kiss. Be blessed. I'm going to leave. And
Good.
I literally would leave and he was on board with it. And he was supportive. Once he recognized that there was a shift, he was just looking for opportunities. So like on the weekends, he was like, okay, I have the morning, like don't worry about the morning on Saturday, Sunday. You go do something. Like, and don't go grocery shopping. Don't do an errand. And oftentimes it would be, I just will go for a drive. I would walk around our neighborhood and be content. Sitting outside and I would find that peace. And then once I realized I was feeling better, I felt like I was opening up more to like my girlfriend and
Mhm.
being able to say, it's not just baby blues. Like, this is a real thing. And these are the things that you have to think about when you're about to have a baby. We got to put some things in place.
So before you had your oldest son, did you have a friend who had had children, or did you have anyone who gave that support and advice to you?
So, my best friend already had one, and she literally delivered her second a month before me. And so, we didn't experience any of those postpartum depression symptoms or anything of that sort. But I would say, like, when it came to me delivering and having my son, she's a month after having hers, she was mothering me. Like, doing her
Right.
best to mother me with a 3-year-old and
Right.
literally a 6-week-old herself.
Right. So she didn't have much capacity for extra mothering, I'm sure,
As
at
much
that
as she
point.
could do, right? And I was grateful for it. I mean, her capacity felt like the world in at that
Mhm.
moment. So there's my best friend, she had children. But then, there's those other friend groups. And in that friend group, I was the first one to have children.
Yes. Mhm.
So I was the example. And like I literally took that mantle when they became pregnant and was like, okay, this is what we're looking for, y'all. This is what we're going to do. Make sure you're outside. Call me. I tried to support the best that I could because of that first experience.
That's why we need to talk to each other because, I mean, it can be so unexpected, these feelings. And from the time you started the holistic approach to dealing with the postpartum depression, how long did it take till you felt like, okay, I'm over this? And also, what other things did you do to get to that feeling?
After the initial start, I would say about month 4 or 5, I could start to feel like that heaviness and that fog truly lift.
Mhm.
And then also I did start some individual therapy.
Mhm.
But I was not like every week. I wasn't consistent. That is something I wish I was more consistent with, but
Mhm.
that also was helping, right? I was able to connect some of like what I was dealing with my mom into what I was dealing with becoming a mom,
Mm.
and voice those fears, name those fears,
Mhm.
and begin to continue to do really that deep dive work. But around that 5th month, I would say I started to feel like, okay, I'm moving through this. Like I'm really moving through this now.
Wow.
Good,
So
good.
processing the emotions was an important part of getting through that, I'm sure.
So important for me.
So you said also your doctor talked about your water and your food intake. What did you change there?
Forced myself to drink water. I pretended it was the greatest. thing ever to me just to do it.
Now, were you breastfeeding?
I was, and that was a challenge for me. So that I ended up exclusively pumping after about the third month. I went straight to exclusively pumping.
Which requires a lot of water anyway.
It's a lot. And just being thoughtful about like what I was going to eat. A lot of that prepping that I wasn't doing, I had to start doing. To the point of almost coming up with a very static menu of this is what I'm gonna eat on Mondays, this is what I'm gonna do on Wednesday, Thursday, and just to not add additional work for myself. So yes.
So you didn't take any medication at all for the postpartum depression. Were you on other medications?
No. So one of the things that my doctor taught me through this process, I was taking birth control. And she was talking about how birth control can also affect mood. And I was already dealing with something that was radically changing and affecting my mood. So what we did was she took me off. Of course, we had that big conversation. Like, okay,
what are we gonna do? Right.
so if you don't do this, like this is going to help with your mood, but also know you have to do other things to make sure. If you're saying you don't want another one right now, and being committed and saying, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, because I need to be in a good space. Like I want to enjoy mothering. I want to enjoy this newborn that I'm in love with him. I want to like him. Like,
yeah, you want to feel it.
Getting off of birth control was a big thing as well. And then just taking my multivitamins.
And those are all things that your doctor recommended for you.
I like to be an A+ student. So if you're going to tell me this is what I need to do.
Especially if it works, right?
And that's the thing. Like, so with each thing, I was feeling better. So when she wanted to take it up, okay, so now I want you to do this, or let's consider this. So the birth control wasn't even the first conversation after the 6 weeks. It was really just the getting outside, touching earth, taking time for yourself. Start with that. I then went back 4 weeks later and we started that conversation about birth control. And she was like, it really will help with your mood. Let's do it. Because everything else was working.
I'm sure you had to have conversations with your husband, a joint decision.
It was easy. And, his big thing to me was, you have to be you. Like I want Ashley. So whatever you got to do to be Ashley, let's do it. We will figure it out. No matter how uncomfortable, even if it's something I really don't want to do, I'm gonna do it because I want Ashley. So
that's lovely. Great. And so I imagine that having had this experience with your first son made you have to think hard about whether you wanted to go through it again and or have a second child. What was that thought process and conversation with your husband like?
It was, am I ready to do it? I feel like we prepared for it. It wasn't like, what if it happens again? It was like, it's likely going to happen. So what are we going to do? And am I okay with it likely happening again? And I think because we had all of our discussions from that viewpoint, when we made the decision to move forward with trying it, I feel like it removed a lot of the fear because I felt prepared. I felt like, okay, we have a game plan. We have an action plan. This is a new experience. So let's make sure we put into place the things that are going to be supportive to you once you have the second one. And it was so much better. So much better.
Tell us about that.
I mean, everything from the delivery experience, This time it was just me and my husband. So
You learned.
I learned real quick.
That's the thing about experience, and you can learn from your own experience or from other people's, but, having that knowledge really puts you in a place to be more successful.
Learned from that, and then just coming home. So remember that best friend I said that to the best of her ability was mothering? Oh, she was in her bag this time.
Right, because she didn't have a newborn.
She didn't have a newborn. So it was like literally I didn't want or need for anything physically, mentally, emotionally. Like I was prepared and immediately was getting outside, spending time by myself, not having to think about dishes or these loads of laundry done. I think the biggest thing that was similar to the first was again the breastfeeding struggles that I had, but I was in a much better space mentally that it was just like, okay, this is just something I struggle with, and just pivot like I did last time. I was able to acknowledge that the pivot was needed, and I made it so much quicker.
Yeah.
It didn't bring you down.
So did that numbness feeling, that sadness, that off feeling ever come at all with baby 2, or you were just so on top of everything that it never even showed up?
I cannot think of like a moment during my second of really having like the depths of it. There were some times where I'm like, I'm exhausted, but I didn't truly feel like that hopelessness or that helplessness that I did with my oldest.
Do you think having an older child when you had the second baby made things easier or more difficult?
I think it made it easier for me because I had someone that could tell me what he needed, could follow instructions very easily, and could also busy himself.
I bet he wanted to help too, didn't he?
Oh, such a big help. Like from I'm grabbing bottles, mommy, you need diapers, mommy.
Oh,
He is a great big brother.
I'm just so happy that you figured it out, that you're doing well, that you had a doctor that helped you navigate it. So you say you tell all your girlfriends who are pregnant. What do you tell them? What would you say to a woman who's about to have her first baby?
I really start with just kind of asking what do they have in place. So what is it going to look like when you and the baby come home? So is your partner going to be there? Are they going to be there for 2 days and then going to work, or do they have paternal leave? Is there an aunt, a mother? Okay, so we know who the players are. Okay, so then how do you want us as your friends to show up for you? Do you want us just to focus on meals? Do you want us to focus on coming and doing a little housework for you each day? Like, what does that look like? So let's make sure you're getting outside. Let's make sure that you aren't hesitating to call us. I don't care what time it is. I don't care if your partner's there. Sometimes it's just not them. Sometimes you just need someone else. I think for me, my big thing is just making sure you have a village.
Bringing home a newborn baby is hard, and you must have support for sure. But everyone doesn't get postpartum depression. So is there a hormonal element to it, or what could we look for? What are some of the indicators?
So I think the biggest thing for myself, the indicator was the duration of the feeling, right? So a number of us, we understand, we know what baby blues are. We've heard the term, and oftentimes what for some women is actually postpartum depression, has been categorized as baby blues. But my doctor, her thing was the duration of this feeling and how long you've been feeling like this. This has moved beyond baby blues. Baby blues is more associated with the newness of it all and all that is required with having a newborn. Once we're moving into a month, of this constant feeling. We're moving into 6 weeks plus of this. Okay, this is something that is now becoming concerning. Along with some of the behaviors that I was dealing with. But for me, my biggest thing was the moment that my son was crying and I just couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't move. And knowing like this can't be normal. It wasn't like, oh, I'm letting them cry it out. It wasn't that type of thing.
Okay. So that was a moment for you then.
It was a moment. And because the biggest indicator for me was the duration, that is why my doctor was able to really hone in and identify, like, okay, postpartum.
The 6 weeks postpartum checkup is pretty much the first one you have, right?
Yes.
So if you're struggling before that, what would you recommend? Do you think that's a good time for people to have that first appointment?
I think that I should have said something sooner because the doctor would have seen me before the 6 weeks. It's just, we're just used to the, like you said, we're just used to the standard 6 weeks is when you go back. But me being comfortable with going back before, I could have went back. I just didn't.
It's interesting me you saying that. 6 weeks is like when they say that you can go back to having sex, right? And the 6 weeks checkup is for men. Men were the doctors, and men were saying the most important thing is to know when you can.
Exactly.
I just wonder if that's where it came from originally.
I wonder. That, I mean, it could be, because that makes sense.
Because when you think about it, what your body goes through and the change in your life,
Yes.
6 weeks is a long time.
Before you get checked on, yeah.
Exactly.
It is. Thinking back, like, why didn't I go back sooner? Like, why didn't I make an appointment? But remember, I don't want to be a burden.
When you are sleep deprived, you don't make the best decisions.
You don't.
And every mother who has a newborn baby, I'm pretty sure, is sleep deprived. So I think it's not on you or the new mother to figure out that, I might need some help before then. You really do need that village that you talked about.
You have to have that village. And, it comes in all types of ways. Like I said, it could be a friend. It could be your neighbor. Find a mom's group.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be your village. I always say that's amazing how much stuff I didn't know about pregnancy, or like what happened to my body, or I would experience. You just found out when you went through it.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be more discussion and conversations amongst us about it. Like, yes, we're not trying to scare you. We're not trying to make you worry or anxious, but there are sometimes some uncomfortable and there's some ugly things about pregnancy and about laboring and delivering and when you get home. And we got to have those conversations, because if you don't, I mean, that's probably why I felt like I'm going to be a burden, because I wasn't having those conversations.
And I think being prepared can make it less scary.
Yeah.
Because it's the unknown and the surprise. I mean, if I'm taking anything away from this conversation, it is, don't be afraid to be a burden, because people want to help, and find the people who can help and ask for it. Because I remember when I had kids, I might have been depressed. Back then we didn't name it that.
Right. We just felt like we had to push through, and it was to the detriment sometimes of ourselves and our children.
Right.
No, seriously. I mean, I just feel like I am so happy you had this supportive husband, this supportive girlfriends, and a doctor who listened to you and came up with an action plan. I hope everybody hears this and takes the lessons from your experience, because it shouldn't be so hard. And if it is hard, then you need to do something to make it less hard.
Get the right doctor.
Yeah.
Well, how do you do that then?
How do you do that? So, know what your criteria is. Some things are just not negotiable for me. I needed someone that was Black or brown, someone that's going to understand what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, someone who is going to listen to me, take my concerns seriously, and then really, when you're going to the appointment, when you're having conversations, yes, you're there for an appointment, but that's kind of like an interview in a sense. You are experiencing them. You're experiencing them in their element. You're experiencing their bedside manner. And if you're not comfortable, let's try another one. Because that was not my first doctor. When I was pregnant, I knew what hospital I wanted to deliver from. And so, okay, now I was looking for doctors that were affiliated with that hospital. I found a practice. It was a large number of doctors there. I think I saw two. One was a woman and one was a man. I don't even know how that happened. I don't even know what I was thinking because I knew I never wanted a man doctor, but I still was like, I'm still figuring it out. And I didn't enjoy the experience of that appointment. So I went through, it was probably about my third or fourth month before I was with my doctor.
Found the one.
And then from that moment, it was like, okay, we stuck. This is good. Let's do this.
Well, that is important to take the time to find the right doctor as early as you can.
I love that you did that, right? Because sometimes once you feel like you've made a commitment, you're like, oh, let me just carry on.
That probably was the best decision that I made. I mean, she was integral in my recovery and just figuring out what this first year of life of my son was going to be like. And if I'm seeing this doctor every month, we got to communicate. I have to feel like, okay, I am more than just a chart. And she provided that.
Excellent.
Yes, we're glad to hear stories like that.
How do you think being a Black woman impacted your experience?
So being a Black woman, I feel like there's this unspoken rule that we just make things happen. And you figure it out.
Without complaint?
Without complaints, put a smile on your face. You're not the first one to do it. Like all those things, right? And so I think that played a major role again in feeling like I was a burden. No one has called me a burden. I have called myself a burden, right? And that became my narrative. And because of that narrative, I wasn't talking and communicating the way that I needed to.
You knew better your second time around.
And did so much better.
Yay.
What do you need from your medical doctors to feel well cared for?
So someone, I guess, for me, them being present and being engaged and willing to collaborate with me.
And what does collaborating with you look like?
So collaborating with me is hearing my concern, sharing their knowledge of, okay, like this is how I would approach this, but does this make sense for you? Is this something that's doable for you? And if it's not, what is the best course of action? And not shaming me because I might not be doing it the traditional way, or I might not select the route that is their preferred route. And being open to letting my journey be my journey, but safely with as much information as possible, and as much back and forth between us about it.
Like understanding that they're the expert in the science and the medicine, and you're the expert in your own body and in your life. So those things have to all work together.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Ashley. This has been wonderful. I'm so inspired by your ability, especially when you were very young, to advocate for yourself and get what you needed. Even though it took you 6 weeks to ask for help, at least you did get it. And now you have this beautiful family with 2 sons, right?
Boys.
2 boys. And we wish you and your family all the best and really appreciate you being on the Body Wealth podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening. Want to hear our take on this conversation? Check out our After the Show episode right here. For resources related to today's topic, see the show notes.
If you want to support Body Wealth, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. We'd also love it if you give us a 5-star rating and write a review letting us know what you love about the show.
The Body Wealth podcast shares personal stories to inspire you. It does not constitute medical advice. For that, we encourage you to work with a trusted healthcare provider. We also want to remind you that the views expressed by our guests are their own.
This podcast is dedicated to our mother, Jean Fernandez Barbour, who showed us what advocating for yourself really looks like.